You meet someone. There is something magnetic about them. They are interesting, a little mysterious, warm in moments and then suddenly far away. You find yourself thinking about them constantly, trying to decode their silences, wondering what you did wrong when they pull back. And then, when they return, the relief you feel is almost overwhelming. If this sounds familiar, you are not alone. And more importantly, you are not foolish. What you are experiencing has a name, a structure, and a reason. Understanding that reason may be one of the most freeing things you ever do. So, let us begin with the question that brought you here. Why do you keep attracting emotionally unavailable people? The first thing worth saying is this: attraction is not random. We tend to think of it as chemistry, as something that simply happens to us. But psychology suggests that attraction is often deeply patterned. The people we feel most drawn to frequently carry an emotional signature that our nervous system already recognizes, not because they are right for us, but because they feel familiar. This is the foundation of attachment theory, developed by the British psychiatrist John Bowlby and later expanded by researchers like Mary Ainsworth. The central idea is that the way we bonded with our earliest caregivers creates a kind of internal template, a working model of what love looks and feels like. And we carry that template into every relationship we form as adults. If your early experience of love was consistent, warm, and responsive, you likely developed what is called a secure attachment style. You feel relatively comfortable with closeness and with independence. You do not tend to panic when someone needs space, and you do not collapse when conflict arises. Environments where love was less predictable. Perhaps a caregiver was loving sometimes and emotionally absent at others. Perhaps affection had to be earned. Perhaps the people who were supposed to be there were dealing with their own pain and simply could not show up fully. None of this makes them villains, but it does leave a mark. When love is inconsistent in childhood, the nervous system learns to associate love with uncertainty, with the push and pull, with the longing. And so, as adults, when we meet someone who is warm and then distant, available and then withdrawn, something in us says, this is what love feels like. This is real. This is home. The emotionally unavailable person does not feel like a red flag. They feel like a familiar ache. Carl Jung would have called this the shadow at work. Not in a sinister sense, but in the sense that we are often drawn toward what we have not yet integrated within ourselves. If you grew up learning to suppress your own emotional needs, to be the stable one, the understanding one, the one who does not ask for too much, you may unconsciously seek out partners who mirror that suppression back to you. Their unavailability confirms a story you have been quietly telling yourself, that deep emotional connection is something you have to work for, something you have to earn, something that is never quite fully yours. This is not a character flaw, it is a wound that learned to disguise itself as a preference. There is also something worth naming about the neurochemistry of anxious attachment. When we are in a relationship with someone who is inconsistent, our brain is essentially on a variable reward schedule. This is the same mechanism that makes certain games so difficult to put down. You never know when the warmth is coming. It does arrive. It floods you with relief and dopamine. The uncertainty itself becomes addictive. The chase becomes the relationship. And this is why when someone genuinely available comes along, someone steady, someone who texts back, someone who says what they mean, it can sometimes feel flat, boring even. Not because that person is less worthy of love, but because your nervous system has been trained to read calm as indifference and distance as depth. This is one of the most important things to understand about relationship anxiety. It is not always about the other person. Sometimes it is about what your body has learned to expect. The Stoics had a practice they called distinguishing between what is within our control and what is not. Epictetus, who was born into slavery and became one of the most influential philosophers of his time, taught that we cannot control how others behave. We cannot force someone to be emotionally available. We cannot love someone into openness if they are not ready or willing. What we can do is examine our own responses, our own patterns, our own choices. This is not cold or detached wisdom. It is actually deeply compassionate. because it redirects your energy away from the exhausting project of changing someone else and back toward the one person you actually have access to, yourself. So what does it look like to begin shifting this pattern? It starts with recognition, not judgment. When you notice that familiar pull towards someone who seems just out of reach, pause, not to suppress the feeling, but to get curious about it. Ask yourself, what is it about this person that feels so compelling? Is it their qualities, or is it the uncertainty they carry? Is this attraction, or is this a pattern I recognize? This kind of honest self-inquiry is not easy. It requires a willingness to sit with discomfort rather than chase relief. But it is also where genuine change begins. The next step involves something that is often misunderstood: self-worth in love. Many people believe that if they just loved themselves more, they would automatically attract better partners. And while there is truth in that, it is more nuanced than a simple affirmation. Self-worth in the context of relationships is not about confidence in the conventional sense. It is about believing, at a quiet and cellular level, that you deserve consistency, that you deserve someone who shows up, that love does not have to hurt to be real. That belief is not built overnight. It is built through small, repeated choices. Choosing to notice when you are making excuses for someone's unavailability. Choosing to honor your own emotional needs rather than minimizing them. Choosing to stay in conversations that feel uncomfortable rather than retreating into people-pleasing. And sometimes choosing to walk away from something that feels magnetic but leaves you consistently depleted. Boundaries in relationships are not walls. They are not punishments or ultimatums. A boundary in the truest psychological sense is simply a clear understanding of what you need in order to feel safe and respected. When your sense of self-worth is grounded, boundaries arise naturally, not from anger, but from clarity. It is also worth saying that emotional unavailability is not always a permanent state. Some people are unavailable because of their own unhealed wounds, their own attachment patterns, their own fear of intimacy. This does not make them bad people, but it does mean that their healing is their responsibility, not yours. You cannot be someone's therapist and their partner at the same time. That is a role that will cost you more than you realize. What you can do is become someone who is increasingly available to yourself, someone who listens to their own discomfort rather than overriding it, someone who chooses relationships not because they feel familiar, but because they feel genuinely nourishing. The pattern of attracting emotionally unavailable people is not a life sentence. It is a signal. It is your inner world asking for attention, asking for understanding, asking you to look at what you have been taught to accept as love, and ask whether you might deserve something more. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not asking for too much. You are someone who learned to love in a particular way, and you are now, perhaps for the first time, beginning to question whether that way is still serving you. That questioning is not weakness. It is the beginning of something genuinely new. If this video gave you something to think about, consider exploring more of what we cover here at Inside the Labyrinth. And if one idea from today stayed with you, share it in the comments. Your reflection might be exactly what someone else needed to hear. And if this spoke to a part of you that rarely gets heard, stay with that feeling for a moment. You are not broken because you feel deeply. You are only beginning to understand yourself. Subscribe to Inside the Labyrinth for more reflections on the hidden patterns of the human mind.